Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author podcast.
Hello, Achievers, and welcome to the Next Level Author podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author businesses. My name's Sacha Black, and here with me every week is...
Daniel Wilcox.
So let's get straight into it. Each week we will start with our weekly confessional, which we can't do this week, but our confessional will involve us reviewing whatever we agreed to achieve in the next week and confessing whether or not we've actually done it. So I'll skip straight past that because obviously we are setting our first tasks this week, and we will move into our personal update. So what are you working on? Have you got launches? What's going on in your lockdown life right now?
Lockdown life. So quarantine is pretty much everything right now. But fortunately for me, that does mean that I'm able to get quite a bit done, which is nice. But my main projects at the minute, I'm working on a non-fiction at the minute, my first non-fiction, because Sacha basically told me to do it. No, I was planning to do a non-fiction anyway on a subject that I know that any podcast I've been on, I tend to talk a lot about collaboration. So I'm writing a book all about my experiences in collaboration, trying to make it practical to how other people can actually get into collaboration and all of that good stuff. And I'm basically just slamming through the first draft at the minute with the intention of, once I've got the entire thing thrown into a bucket, I can then turn it over and see if it's some kind of sandcastle and fix whatever I need to. And I'm also putting in seeds at the minute for a fiction serial horror that I'm going to be writing. And that is something I've been teasing on my podcast, but this is an exclusive announcement. So I'm putting in the seeds to start growing that for a serial horror that will come out soon, which is experimental, but I'm optimistic to see how it goes.
That is very exciting. So have you got a loose launch month for your collaboration nonfiction extravaganza?
I was looking at potentially July or August, but with the quarantine stuff, I'm in a bit of two minds at the minute, because I'm not sure how it's going to affect launches, sales, anything like that, or if it will touch it at all. From what I've heard in the author sphere, there's not really been, it's been a bit hit and miss. Most people have said there's not been too much impact, but there have been a few people that I know who have seen significant impact on their business. So I don't know what the right answer is right now.
As a non-fiction author, I've seen zero impact, if anything, a slight increase. So I would say you're probably fine. But it obviously also is the summer, and that does sometimes impact sales as well.
Yeah, I'll say July as a guide to go for, but I'm going to try and get for it earlier if I can.
Yeah, I think if you can get it in before summer, and with your ridiculous writing speed, I'm sure you can.
I'll give it a go. How about yourself?
Yeah. So I am in the run-up to a launch. I'm launching a book called The Anatomy of Prose, 12 Steps to Sensational Sentences, which is basically a bit of a passion project for me. I really love sentence level craft. So I just threw everything at it, and it's like twice as long as any other nonfiction book I've written. So it's going to be one of those weapon books. But yeah, so that's launching at the end of May, and I am currently in between trying to feed a demon child every 3 seconds in quarantine, trying to write the workbook. And then other projects, that's the biggest thing that I'm working on. I've got a lot of this Q2, I'm trying to go back to business basics. So I'm doing a lot of things like overhauling my website, really laborious, horrible tasks, like my bio about page was out of date. I don't have a speaker page, basic things. My autoresponders need updating. I need a file structure system because I keep losing manuscripts and things, So a lot of business basics at the moment, which is very boring, but very necessary.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth mentioning there as well, because same as you've mentioned, that my horror serial that I'll be launching is essentially me soft launching or basically rebooting my horror direction, because I've been all over the place with different books lately. So that's going to be a big one to actually like funnel down channel and go, here's where I'm going from now on. So it's gonna be fun, big experience. It's almost like I kind of feel like I'm starting from scratch again, and just with all the lessons that I've learned previously, putting those into practice now, and then seeing if I can make it work.
Yeah, that I always find that really exciting though. I love the buzz of like new, fresh energy.
Hell yes.
So let's not mess about. These episodes are supposed to be quick, snappy, whippy jobbies.
I'm being told off already.
I know. Shut up, Dan. No, I'm joking. Please talk. Like you, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Right. So the very first question. I'm cheating already. Like we are only supposed to have one question a week, and I'm already cheating. We have a part A and a part B. So I'm just going to. I'm gonna fire away with part A. So I don't think we can level up our businesses unless we know where it is that we're going. We need to know what the levels are, and in order to do that, we have to have a direction. It is our map. So what is your definition of success?
Okay, that's a good question to start with, and already I'm feeling the pressure.
Under pressure.
Under pressure. Let's just cue that soundtrack. So,
I know, right?
The success for me, I mean, there are loads of different levels, but I think for me, the core part of success for what I'm looking for at the minute is sustainability. So it's hitting a point in which I know that the income is enough each month, that I'm putting out enough product each month, and that I've got a strong enough reader base that I can keep putting things out and things are going to keep selling. Obviously, there'll be a lot of changes and there's a lot of factors outside of my control there. But I think that's really what I'm looking for at the minute. I mean, obviously, you can look at things like measuring the quality of your books and the amount of reviews. I don't have a sort of maximum far outreaching income figure that I want to hit. I've got a basic sum number that is my goal per month minimum for this year in profit. And for me, that's success, because success is being in a position in which I'm writing the things that I want to write. I'm writing at a pace I'm happy with, and I'm delivering what I wanted to deliver to the people that I want to please. Good enough answer, I think.
I think so, yeah. Like, I think it's really important for us to, like, if we are going to be accountable each week and we're saying that we want to level up, then I think it's really important to know where those levels are taking us. And so that's where this question came from. And I didn't think we could start this without asking that.
No, I think it's a good way to go. And I think it's your turn to spill the beans. You prepared, so...
Like, yeah, no, you say that. I really should have prepared. I definitely didn't. So I definitely have monetary goals. So ever since I was a kid, I have no explanation as to why this is, completely arbitrary, but I've always wanted to earn six figures. So to me, it's less about necessarily earning six figures from books specifically, but I want a six-figure business. So for me, that's definitely one of the goals, and before that is to surpass my income when I was employed, because I had a really, really well paid job, so which I quit and left. So goal one is to surpass my old employment income, and then to get to six figures. So once I do that, I think that will definitely give me some measure of success. And I think another measure of success for me is about only working for myself. So it was very similar to what you were saying about getting to write the things that you want to write. I just want to work for myself, and so, you know, and I'm a little way away from that. So yeah, like that is a huge part of what I think is successful, is that I get to choose every single day just to do the things that I want. And the very last measure for me is about having some kind of future pot for my, you know, pension or retirement, or, you know, an investment portfolio or something like that. So something that I can, have and know that my future and my son's future and my wife's future is safe. So yes, those would be my measures of success, which I find really interesting, because neither of us, you know, said, we didn't say accolades, there weren't awards in there weren't, you know, it was all very, not vague, they're specific, but kind
practical, I think.
Yeah.
It's
God,
definitely
we're old.
I know it's just it's a pragmatic way of saying. Well, I think you can look at success on different levels. I think goalposts can move a lot. I think what I've learned a lot, because I have looked at accolades, and there are certain things I do want to achieve, and particularly at this point in my life, those measures of success are a little way away. And for me, I just want to get to a point where I've built the solid foundation that I need to, and then I could look at other goals and measures of success. I cannot say that of success, because I think when people ask you what is your definition of success, I think it's very easy to say your big overarching dream goal, your vision of where you want to be sort of 10, 15 years down the line. But you do have all those goalposts on the way, places that you need to sort of get to before you get any further on. And obviously yours that you mentioned range from the far out to the current. And just to clarify as well for the people listening, I know that particularly on the Great Writers Share podcast, which is my other podcast for anyone who's not listened to that yet, I just plug
link
that.
out already. Yeah, go on.
We'll plug yours. We'll get to it. We're both wearing our own merch. But one thing that I've not explicitly mentioned on there is the fact that I am a full-time author, but part of that is also client work, and I do some ghostwriting as well for different clients. And that is something that I want to move away from in the long term and get to a point where I'm doing fully the stuff that I want to do. And like you say, you're doing stuff with your clients for different projects. One additional thing that I had from what you said was, in terms of one of your goals being able to choose all that kind of freedom side of things, does that still include particular pockets of client work? So would that be a case of you're still doing X, Y, Z for other people, but you're just more in control of what you take?
That is a really good question. There is one, and I need to be careful what I say, but there is one particular client who I adore and love, and the thought of not working with them, it's really not. The thought of not working with them is extremely painful. But I think, if we're talking about in 5 years' time, I would like to think that I don't need to work with anybody else. Right now I still need to work and have client work. So for me it's the psychology behind not needing to work with anybody else, and also, but ultimately no, I want to not do freelance work at all. So I would but that said, like my and I am going all around the houses here. God, get a grip, Sacha. So the thing that I said at the start is I want a 6-figure business. And that's because I'm not the sort of person who could write for 8 hours a day. I'm just not. I like to have my fingers in 70,000 pies. And, I want to do courses. I want to narrate audiobooks. I want to speak. I want to, maybe hold in-person things. I don't know. What I do know is that I will always have an interest in lots of things, and so I can't imagine being somebody who sits for 15 hours a day to write books. If we're talking about a book goal, I would love to be able to write and publish between 4 and 6 books a year. I don't want to write and publish 10 a year. I'm just I have no desire to do that. So yes, right, I'm going to get us back on track, because we have the part B, which was really part A, because this was the first question I came up with, but they are linked, I think. So obviously we are talking about our next levels, but we are already full-time working for ourselves. So we have already attained a level that lots of people would love to attain. So my question, and really the question of the week, is, what is your biggest achievement to date, or what did you do that was the most significant thing that got you to where you are now?
Jesus.
I am really going hard.
Wow. Start with a sparkler instead of the bloody fireworks, right? Biggest achievement.
And it doesn't need to necessarily be something massive, it could be something tiny. It could be like one of those small things that was a pebble that you threw in, but it was the ripples that created, the bigger effect. It doesn't have to be, I think
the main thing that springs to mind is probably my investment in self-development, particularly. So I used to work a full-time career in marketing. I started writing in 2015, and the trigger for me, so it was a few months after my son was born. Before I'd actually started going into the corporate world, I was freelance editing and proofreading, and I was reading other people's books and everything else. And my son was born, and I got to a point where I just started dabbling in fiction. I released my first novella, Sins of Smoke, threw that out. That did really, really well, and got to a point where I was like, okay, so independent publishing is quite cool. Let's see what goes on. And obviously there's a lot of investment in terms of the people that I met, the writing craft, the actual writing of the books. But I think the biggest thing I did was I started listening to a lot of podcasts on self-development, on habit, on routine. And it's stuff that sounds really, really dry and boring, but particularly when one of the biggest influences is the Tim Ferriss podcast, because he brings on world-class performers in all different disciplines and basically goes into what makes them so successful. And the more you listen to, the more you see the similarities between the people who succeed and do well and the people that don't. And you've got things like a solid morning routine, making sure you get quality sleep. Meditation is a common theme that pops up along. I know why you're laughing. But all of these common trends that were just sticking out among lots of people. And I think there was a point where it switched in me, and I started going, okay, I have to be responsible for my success. And that's when I flipped my routine. So I started carving out time for writing. For me, that was early in the morning, making sure I got that done. That was my priority for the day. If I hit my 500, 1,000 words, whatever it was every morning, that was fine. I could live my day. And then that just carried on and snowballed into everything else. So without without building that initial habit of carving out the mornings, doing what I wanted to, and getting those words in, nothing else would have happened. And that was something that I had to balance as well around, like I said, a full-time career. I had a kid as well, and I still have a kid. That sounds morbid. He's still alive. Good. But yeah, that initial investment in getting that ball rolling, and that carries me on even to today. How about yourself?
Well, and I was just going to say that gives me loads of ideas for questions to ask you for later episodes. But I know, like, although I have to say I'm now terrified because you think my questions are really hard. So I'm like, oh God.
I'll wait for mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I find this really difficult because for me, it's almost like lots of tiny little things have led me to where I am. But I suppose if I have to pick just one thing, it was the act of writing down the lessons that I was learning. And I put them on my blog, and the villains ones went, I always say this, they didn't really go viral, but I had like hundreds of thousands of hits in a very, very short space of time.
That's amazing.
And yeah, well, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have realized that there was a market for, that kind of knowledge. And it was completely serendipitous. And that led me down the road of writing nonfiction. And if I hadn't started writing nonfiction, I really honestly don't think I would be where I am now. And so for me, it was like, yay, I'm senile, go my senile brain. That's led me to be able to quit my job. But yeah, so like I was really trying to dig deep, because there's loads of things, there are lots of little things that I've done, people that I've spoken to that I was shitting myself about talking to. You go up and you say hi, and all of a sudden it leads to like wonderful relationships, or the people like a certain Dan Wilcox that you don't go and speak to and you still end up with a lovely relationship. But yeah, I think if I have to look at the act or the action that was most pivotal, or the one that had the most ripples later down the line, it would be publishing those blogs, those lessons that I learnt about craft and characters along the lines, and that literally led me to where I am today.
What made you publish those initial articles?
I was senile. Like unless I write things down, I don't remember them, and I was investing in deconstructing films, books, TV, character, anything I could. I'm a perpetual student, and I was just trying to consume and get better at writing, and I had to put the information down somewhere, and just blogs were popular, so I put it on a blog, and that was like 8 years ago, and now I'm here.
The rest, as they say, is history.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think there's a load of pebbles and a load of different things that have snowballed down the line. I think it's something you take for granted, especially when you get further down the line and you look back and you think of all those little fortuitous moments, those just opportunities that appear from out of nowhere. And definitely one of the ones that you said then that I just want to highlight for anyone listening is the networking, the communicating, the speaking to people, because the amount of times I've spoken to someone at a conference just briefly, and that relationship has paid dividends, not even in terms of making your product successful, but in terms of the knowledge, the friendships, everything else. And that's a huge one for me.
Yeah, and I very nearly chose that as my answer, but that came after, so I tried to go back to what was the source. But yeah, so I think that wraps up the very first question and answer session. Do we how are we going to round off these episodes? You can tell we planned so well.
Well, we can ask a question for next week. So anyone who is listening, the question for you is, do we go with part A or part B of your question?
That's so hard. I think part A, because this is about climbing the ladders and going up the steps. So in order for people to know where they're going with us on their journey, they need to know where they want to go. Where is their endpoint? What is your definition of success?
Beautiful. Perfect. Awesome. Well, with that, I will see you next week.
And I will see you next week. Wait. Oh my goodness me. You nearly got away with it. We need to say what we're going to do to be accountable.
Okay.
I could see that in your eye as soon as you realised I knew we'd forgotten. Yeah. What are we going to do? What are we going to be accountable for? I think we need to write some kind of, like, you know how we were talking about the steps of our goals. I think we need to write those down. We don't necessarily need to say them out loud to everybody, but you need to show me and I need to show you, so that we've proven that we have done our steps.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, right. Until next time.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writer Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
next level
authors.
We'll find some goodness in there.
Yeah.